Authority to order. And the purpose of the meeting is for the review of bids received and any other general business of the order of the in the Development Authority. So proof of publication is available. Do we have any public comments? Do we have any public attending? Do you see anybody, Aaron?
We did have one, and now I don't see them on anymore.
Okay. Can you flip that agenda back up there?
Yes, I can.
Okay, the next order of business is to review the bid tabulation, which is an aggregation of the proposals received for the Lower Allen Commons site improvements. Aaron, would you want to brief through those, please?
Actually, I think I'm going to have Bill Morgan do that, and I will pull up the tabulation for you. Bill is who's managing the whole bid process.
That's great. Bill, would you go ahead?
Yes, Ed, thank you, and good evening. We did receive bids as scheduled at noontime yesterday, February 23rd. We received 4 bids from contractors, York Excavating, Mainline Excavating, Shiloh Paving and Excavating, and JVH Excavating. The low bidder, after we reviewed all bids for their completeness, was York Excavating at $1,846,073.75. That value is the sum of, if you look through the breakdown, the item A, the common area improvements, B, the grosser retail improvements, C, the sewer extension, and unit prices 1 through 7, which deal with unsuitable excavation, rock excavation, be it blasted or mechanically removed, and rock boring. We assign certain quantities to those unit prices in order to be fair to all the contractors. So if you add all those up, it comes to $1,846,073. It was interesting to note that the second bidder, Mainline Excavating, at $1,863,506, was only $17,000 higher on a $1.8 million project, which is about 0.9%, which is very good on a project of this magnitude. So we were recommending that the project be awarded to York Excavating.
Bill, you have experience with this contracting firm?
We have worked with York Excavating in the past on some higher education projects, and we are actually working sort of indirectly with them on a hotel we're building in Carlisle, where they worked for the Development Authority in Carlisle, and maybe Tom Ritchie can speak more to that.
Yeah, that's the former Maslin plant site. It's a 46-acre brownfield that I've been a consultant on for the last 7 years. And York Excavating had about just shy of $6 million site contract to install utilities, water, sewer, roads, improvements to Carlisle Springs Road, etc. And they performed very well.
And if I add in one other item, during the bid process, as you know, there are opportunities for the contractors to raise questions relative to clarifications on the documents, and York Excavating was probably presented 30 or 40% of the questions during that time. So they were very engaged in the bid, and I believe were very aggressive in preparing their bid.
And I too have worked adjacent to York Excavating, not currently, but I have nothing ill to say about them.
And
Bill?
this is Max, if you can hear me. I've worked with them before, and they're very good.
Okay, Max, I will yield to you, Vice President to President.
Welcome,
Okay,
Max.
thank you.
Glad you're here.
Sorry.
Ed was doing a great job, but it's good to have you here.
You were dead. I heard everything. So okay. Well, based on the recommendation and the of Bill and the and their experience, and I know in the past their bid bonds, and they follow up with bid bonds and performance and payment bonds. That do I hear a recommendation to award the contract to York Excavating Company?
Max, before we do that, may I ask one more question? Do you mind?
No, go ahead.
Bill, when I looked at this, I noticed that in categories B and C, which are the I guess the building itself and the sewer extension, that's really where they were significantly lower than the competing bids. And I do understand that the folks here on the phone have some experience with York and find them to be a quality provider. Do you, based on your experience, have any concerns that those bids might be low, and we may be, at risk of having overruns or other unexpected expenses? Do you think those numbers are consistent? Or put another way, is our experience with York as a community, when they do bid, are they kind of routinely on their bid? Does anybody have any insight into that?
Sal, I can let me address your question.
Thank you.
The difference, if you look at York and you just want to look at A, B, and C, York is higher on the common area, second bidder, main line, about $100,000 lower, if I'm looking at that correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Conversely, on the grocer retailer, York is $100,000 lower, and mainline is $100,000 higher. And on a sewer extension, depends on how they look at that particular project based on productions and such. It's not a huge disparity. Let's call it 120 versus 150 or $30,000 or so. I don't. If you're asking, did they miss something, and are they going to come back and look for an extra or a change order based on what they missed? This was a hard bid plan spec project. The entire team through the bid process clarified many of the gray areas such that the bidders had plenty of information to develop their bids. So I think the bid is bona fide and good based on the bids that were received. If you're asking, are there going to be change orders? There are going to be change orders. So, I would like to say no, there won't be any, but given the nature of the site, we're going to be, I believe, and Tom, you're probably most familiar with it, and I would defer to you, but there are certain unforeseen conditions
Sure.
that could not be answered by the geotechnical reports that were prepared that we're going to experience.
Yeah,
But
all I would say, Bill, is always.
always. But we tried to guard, we did our best to guard against that, to establish those unit prices. So they're at least they're controlled.
Okay,
We also had provisions in the bid documents and the contract in and of itself to limit the contractor on markups for change orders. Change orders that they would perform with their own workforces, and change orders that would be performed by subcontractors. So again, we've done our best, and based on our past experience have been able to at least be fair and limit those markups, and be fair and limit the exposure to the client to develop unit prices to control that.
okay. Well, you've answered my
Yeah.
question. Thank you.
If I might,
Sal, go ahead, Tom.
sorry, Max, I was just going to point out to the board members that back in December, when you made the decision to proceed on your own with this and do it yourselves, Larry Kostelak and I presented a summary that assumed certain costs. And I just went back and dug that up and took a look. And we had $1,952,000 in site costs and about $275,000 in contingency on top of that in that analysis. So if you can compare those numbers to what we received bid wise, we are in pretty good shape.
Or
I actually
Bill,
remember that, Tom.
Tom or
Yeah.
Bill, is it also possible that York and Mainline might have, like, one might have allocated a particular task to column A
Sure.
and the other contractor allocated it to column B, but it's the same task?
John, yeah, I will answer. And you're exactly right. Yes, some contractors will move certain activities and sort of either overlap them or exchange them. So yes, you're exactly right.
Okay, well, then if no one else has questions, I could make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Seeing heads nod. So at this point, I am making a motion to award the Lower Allen Township Development Authority, Lower Allen Commons Contract 101 Site Improvements to York Excavating Company LLC. The amount of the award is 1,846,073.75.
I would
Okay,
second
we have a
that
motion.
I would second.
Motion by John, second by Sal. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Okay, moving right along. We, in our packet, there was a proposal from ECS for construction material testing and construction observation services. Bill, do you want to just give us a brief background on that?
Yes, ECS was your geotechnical engineer for the project. So we went back to them, which is typical in the industry, for a materials testing proposal for concrete, asphalt, steel, and soils, which is also an owner-provided item. So we can control the quality of the installation. I don't see the value, but I reviewed the proposal. It is consistent with industry standards. They have several unit prices in there, and their hourly rates are in there for testing and for on-site observation. So I would again recommend that proposal be approved by the board.
Okay, this is Max. I think it's a good idea to have the third party. Sometimes we have the contractors included in their bids, but it's often better to have it third party. Although sometimes the coordination between the contractor and the testing material company gets a little rough. And I guess Bill will count on you to to coordinate that?
Yes, Max, we certainly will be coordinating that. We do put the illness on the contractor to properly coordinate those testing activities. But again, we will be double checking that as the project progresses.
Yeah, just a comment on that. ECS did all of the material testing on that Carlisle project that I just described that York Excavating executed on. And we had a very good rapport and very good reporting and no issues.
So I'm not as familiar with these items as I am under the building code, but the design professional who designed the building plans would typically specify a third party like this to do the materials testing and special inspections, which are things that the ordinary local construction code official doesn't do, like the American Concrete Institute testing, soils testing, special steel connections, things like that. So this is rather ordinary, except we're calling out who will do the work as opposed to the contractor.
Yes.
Yeah, I just, in my experience, you want control of the third-party independent testing as the owner.
Correct.
Okay.
And the building code forbids the direct relationship between the builder and the testing.
Oh, okay.
Okay, very good. So we can satisfy John in regards to the third-party testing for the building permits department. And so that's a good thing. Okay, well, are there any further comments or discussions on that contract?
Steve, I think you had mentioned to me that you had a comment about removing the liability. There's an issue.
Yes, folks, Steve Miner, solicitor. Didn't speak before because I was pleased. Aaron let me review the bid documents before. The financial security on the main contract was fine. And my only concern with this contract is it has the limitation of liability to the extent of the contract value at 18. And I know Mr. Morgan's firm was willing to waive that. I don't know if these folks would be or not, but that was my really only concern with it.
This is Max. I think that's a reasonable request, and I recall you stating that earlier. So maybe we can do the proposal or a motion to accept with that change.
Steve, it was difficult to hear, but I believe you wanted to delete the clause that limits their liability to the value of their contract, correct?
Right. It's in the special provisions, the small print stuff, paragraph 18 on page 7.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, that's the purpose of engineers and testing companies to have liability insurance to cover, the catastrophic type of event that may coincidental damages that may occur. So you certainly don't want to waive that. Or we certainly want to make sure that we have sufficient insurance coverage to cover any coincidental damages.
I will tell them that's a condition of the approval of their agreement.
I agree with that,
Okay.
Bill. Liability carriers suggest that they put that clause in there, and savvy owners or design professionals or construction managers such as Bill say, take it out.
Yeah. So,
So for the motion, Steve, was that the consequential damages section or?
No,
Okay.
John, it's in
Consequential,
the supplemental provisions, paragraph 18, limitation of liability.
Okay,
consequential, that's what I meant. Oh,
all right, well, then I could make a motion to accept the proposal of ECS Mid-Atlantic LLC for construction, testing, and observation services at Lower Allen Commons. And the price is 32,995.00 with the deletion of paragraph 18, limits of liability.
Second,
Okay. We have a motion by John, second by Ed, I think. Right?
Correct.
Correct?
Okay, any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Sound like 4-0. Okay. Are there any other items to bring forth for this evening's meeting
They're
in regular
not,
session?
they're not, I didn't know if the solicitor had anything for the executive session. I actually kind of put this on because sometimes between the time the agenda comes out and
Yeah.
we get an offer and then I want to be able to review it, but that is not the case tonight, so we don't have an offer. Mr. Solicitor, do you have anything that you would need to discuss in executive session?
I do not.
Okay.
Okay, any other general items of discussion? I guess, Bill, I saw the schedule. Do you know if York Excavating is ready to hit the ground running?
Yes, Steve, I called them yesterday after the bids came in and told them, obviously, and they saw the bids because they go live on Penn Bid. They were aware they were the apparent low, subject to the board's approval. Excuse me. I told them the contracts would be out this week, and they are prepared to mobilize and more particularly attend the pre-construction meeting that Aaron and I are scheduling potentially for next Thursday. So yes, they're ready to go and very excited about the project.
Okay, and are there any notifications for PennDOT, even though we're boring underneath the Gettysburg Pike there, that we need to invite PennDOT to that meeting also, or?
Well, see, there will be other meetings with Cumberland County soil erosion and control. There will be meetings with PennDOT that would have to be scheduled subsequent to this pre-construction meeting, which is just between us, the owner, Lower Allen, and the contract. It's primarily administrative to set the stage as to how the project is going to run moving forward.
Okay.
Max, I see the Max.
What's that?
Bill, do you want to mention too that the schedule for the building? The bid schedule for the building? For Unit 3?
Yes, so if you remember from the last meeting, the architect is working through a revised structural design. Appears that he's changed the elevations of the building and is working through those details. We are expecting to have plans from the architect on or before March 10th. The bid would be advertised on March 15th, with bids being received on or about April 15th, and the contract being awarded and the building contractor starting on May 1st.
Okay. Very good. Any other points of discussion for this evening's meeting?
If you might want to announce the next meeting date, I'd make a motion to adjourn then.
Okay, next meeting date, which is our regular scheduled meeting, is Monday, March 15th, 2021 at 6 p.m.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, if no one else has any other business, I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by John, second by Sal. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Max,
Yes.
I will send you the notice of award for you to sign so that we can get it over to York Excavating.
Okay, I'll get it back to you.
Or I'll send it to
Tomorrow.
Bill and Bill will send it. We'll get it there.
We'll get it.
Okay. That
All
sounds
right.
good.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night,
everybody.
everyone.
Everyone.
Night.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Night.